board, and I'm just a minute here to get the on the screen.
18th of June, Rabbi Furst, Havos Halavovos.
Okay, thank you. As Lou mentioned, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst. Here in Yeshiva Samanafsi, here in Shalayim, here at Kodesh, care of Zoom, and we're learning, as Lou mentioned, Sefer Havos Halavovos, Shar Heshbon and Hanefesh, and we're in the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, the 12th of 30 spiritual accountings that people should, on a very regular basis, deal with between them and themselves. And yeah, good. I guess let's continue on. I'm just taking a minute to put the document on the screen. I just want to make it a little bit bigger. Right, here we go. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Okay. Okay, so we are right. Yeah, we're gonna do the psukim, correct? The way psukim. Okay. Okay, I don't mind. We can do a bit of a review if you don't mind, beginning the 12th of the Heshbonus.
Okay, so that would be on the previous page.
I think the bottom, the last paragraph is possibly there.
Yeah, the Hashanim Asar.
That's right.
That's
Correct.
12. Hashnim Asar. Heshbon Ha'adam Im Nafsho Be'es Hamis Libo V'chari so Al Haolam B'chol Hishtadlu so V'tachlis Tichavolosav Visof Yachlasu Yichalsu. Okay, so the 12th method of the Heshbon and Nefesh, at a time that a person is inclined, the person's heart is inclined the for his desires in this world, with all his efforts and the purpose of his strategy and the limits of his abilities.
Right. So meaning basically this. I mean, a person should evaluate himself in terms of the efforts that he puts forth, mental, physical efforts to achieve the goals that he sets for himself in the secular world, in the physical, materialistic world. And you should evaluate those efforts as compared to the efforts he puts forth to achieving spiritual goals. So, I mean, for example, just to preempt the paragraph, that if a person sees himself that he's very eager and industrious and very enthusiastic in trying to acquire and achieve various different secular and materialistic goals in this world. So if he sees that that is not in keeping with the amount of effort and enthusiasm he has for spiritual goals, he should question himself as to why. Why should it be? In fact, that if the spiritual goals are eternal and infinite in their rewards, so why shouldn't he put forth at least enough effort to achieve those goals as he does physical and materialistic goals? And this as with all the 30 uh, Heshbonis spiritual accountings, this is something which he should be training himself to do constantly. Meaning, how do you do that? When, for example, when you see yourself being very involved in a particular secular activity, person question himself, well, when it came to that spiritual activity that I had to do recently, or the one I'm going to do. So why shouldn't I put forth? He should question himself. Why should I put forth at least as much effort and enthusiasm in achieving that? And this is a way to for a person to have himself grow and progress, right? That naturally a person is going to be um, interested and uh, enthusiastic in trying to achieve his secular goals, meaning whether that's making a living, a career, whether it's even just buying some good food in the local supermarket. So you can see how a person acts when it comes to those kind of things, and we should at least be that excited and industrious in trying to achieve our spiritual goals and obligations. Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
V'yishkal ama bizoso b'inyanei achariso unetoso ma'avodas Elokav. So he should weigh what is this ama?
That's like with it. He should mishkal ima he should weigh with this bezu soy inyani with the that yishkal ima bezu soy inyani achrisoy. He should contrast this. He should weigh this against the uh, little value he puts on Inyani Achriso, on his ultimate um, uh, affairs, and those things which ultimately will affect him and be with him forever and ever, and meaning the spiritual aspects. He in contrast, when you contrast the efforts he puts forth for his spiritual activities, you see that they seem to be very much zuzaso. They seem to be very much neglected. That's a big question.
So in other words, he should weigh his interest in the physical world with his interest in Hashem.
Right, right, and even without having to involve Kadosh Baruch Hu so much, just involve himself. I mean, if he just takes to heart that his neshama is going to eventually be leaving this world, and it's going to have to take with it its spiritual acquisitions and achievements and bring those to the next world. And if not, then it's going to be empty. It'll be bereft of any merits and rewards that might be waiting for it. So a person should take it to heart and try and make some type of provisions for his what he calls his inyani achriso in his ultimate affairs, the affairs which ultimately will be affecting him and be with him forever and ever, meaning those things which are spiritual and eternal.
ואז ימצא מחשבונו, מחשבוסו, בענייני עולמו הרמה שבחשבוס ותוכלתו בו הרמה בתוכלס. So, and this we find from his thoughts of the concept of his world, of the world on high.
Well, no, okay, what's that? I think let's make a correction there. Va'az yimsa, meaning if he'll make this comparison, it'll turn out it'll therefore turn out, we'll discover makshavaso b'inyane olamo harama, that he'll discover that his thoughts on the affairs of this world, olamo, are the highest. Discover that the thoughts for his activities in this world are of the highest makshavas of all his thoughts. I mean, if he looks and contrasts these things, where's the priority? So you'll see if a person hasn't trained himself, naturally speaking, this is the way it's going to be. The person's going to naturally put at the forefront and at the apex of his interests and desires the secular, materialistic, physical activities and achievements in this world. Meaning, let me just put it: no one's training for the spiritual Olympics, right? Why aren't we training for this? Why don't we want to try and get those gold medals? The Hashem's going to give out gold medals, you know that. So why isn't anyone training for the gold medal in the spiritual Olympics? Why are people only training for the physical Olympics? What are you gonna do with it? You know how many gold medals wind up in porn shops? And I'll tell you, the silver medals and bronze medals are even more than the gold medals in the porn shops. So who's training for the spiritual gold medals, right? Even a bronze medal, spiritually speaking, you'll get it forever and ever. How come no one's training? That's the question.
Let's see, and his plans are highest. Shebe Tochelis. His plans are for the highest purpose.
Well, no, that his like the plans and strategies that he makes for this world are of the highest of his have the highest priority amongst all his expectations.
He lo yisapik lo mamini keni nav me'oma. because he is not satisfied with this.
Right. Maybe ki lo yaspik lo mimini kinyanov mu'uma. That there's no satisfaction he has, or satiation, better. There's no satiation for his um, desires of acquisition.
What is this word ma'uma?
Except that, meaning except, meaning there's none, meaning none of mu'uma, kinyani mu'uma, none of his possessions are sufficient for him.
Right.
Of everything he owns and has, none of them are sufficient. Where did I once read that I think this was a secular source from maybe from ad, again, like one of these big Fifth Avenue ad companies, that the whole enticement, that's that's the word, the whole enticement of wanting to buy something exists up until the sale. Once the sale is complete, right, then you have to interest the buyer in another sale.
Right.
Right.
No satisfaction.
That's right.
Although I must admit, I get a great deal of satisfaction when I buy something.
Yeah, well, because you've worked on yourself a little bit, you, or maybe a lot. So you've matured and you've grown, right?
Uh-huh.
But in general, if a person's not going to spend time um, climbing out of that pit of materialism, so that's the simple that's just the trap of materialism. Materialism is simply a it could be almost an endless pit of wanting to have one thing and from the next, and the real enthusiasm, the real excitement is uh, is in the actual acquisition. But once it's acquired, so it doesn't have that much value. But again, if a person's changed his perspective and he's worked on the concept of that you only need to get what's necessary for you and your immediate needs and the needs of your family or whatever. So then if you're buying and acquiring things which you need for your daily livelihood and sustenance, so then it's satisfying, it's satisfactory. Right? But if it's simply just to have the excitement of the acquisition, so then there's very little satisfaction there. You probably remember. I remember telling you at least more than once that it was like I remember very clearly. It was like the last New York Times article I read before I came here to Eretz Israel. It was at the time I was working in Yeshiva University and assistant shliach over there. So yeah, people, I know on the on the on the dining room there, people would bring in the New York Times. They'd read it and then they'd leave it around. So you pick it up and you read an article here, read an article there. So if you remember the big Sunday Times, you remember what the big Sunday Times used to look like?
Oh yeah. With the comic section in there.
It was thicker than the New York City Yellow Pages, and it came out every week. Besides the daily when they came out, but they came out on Sunday with all the special sections, entertainment, sports, all kinds of whatever we want. What. So anyway, they had feature articles on all kinds of things. So I remember they're sitting there. This was about a month and a half before I came here to Israel. I remember sitting there reading this article. As I told you, I probably mentioned it at least once before. This article was written about by a tremendously successful woman executive, CEO of some tremendous Fortune 500 company, and she's now in her mid 40s, and she realized that she never got married, never had a child, and she's never going to have a child. And maybe she'll get married, but she'll never have a child. And she's bemoaning her fate. Right? She realizes that she got sold by the American dream, and it's not turning out to be such a good dream. And so she mentions there that her her final understanding of what her life is all about is, she said, she writes checks, therefore she exists. So that was that was her final uh, epitaph for herself, realizing that her life has passed her by, and she's not going to have too much to show for it in the end. After all, you can't write checks forever, and even if you could, the ink's going to run out sooner or later, and the money will probably run out too. So, so she was realizing that she made a pretty bad mistake with her life, and that's what it's about. That's what about. People get into these ruts. They used to call it the rat race. I don't know what they call it these days. Um, but so it's a vicious cycle, and unfortunately, people don't really have the opportunity to grow out of it unless you happen to have a fortunate experience of meeting people that have gotten up and out of it, and worked themselves into a better, more productive spiritual um, endeavor. And they're trying to improve themselves spiritually, which is going to be the ultimate and eternal success, instead of having a momentary um, materialistic success. So, but unfortunately, many people are that's just where they're stuck. And it's a shame. It's a real shame that people let their lives go by, and they haven't achieved, haven't progressed, haven't grown, haven't changed. And I remember I was one of one of my father's mother of the Shalom. She used to live in what was it called? What was it called? Something Village. Oh, Century Village. Remember Century Village down there in Florida?
No.
No? Okay. Anyway, it was a very it was sort of like the first of its kind. They made 3 or 4 places down in southern Florida where the people would go to retire, but it was a special retirement community. People would be able to buy apartments, and but there'd be a clubhouse and all kinds of things like this. And now it's very common, those kind of things. But in 50 years ago, more than that, it was an innovation. So I remember. So they have a clubhouse, and they have all the retirees living there. I remember I was once visiting my grandmother, my father's mother of Shalom, and so coming out of the clubhouse were these 3 guys, obviously in their 70s or something like that. They're, they're all retired. One was probably a doctor, one was probably an accountant, one was probably a lawyer. Probably had careers the last 50, 60 years, whatever. And they're all wearing shorts and like t-shirts, and carrying popsicles, and licking their popsicles as they're coming out of the clubhouse. So I took a look at these 3 guys, and I say, so what's changed since they were 7 or 8 years old? And when they were 7, 8 years old, they were running out in shorts eating popsicles. So they're still doing that now when they're 70 years old. What's changed in the 70 years? You know? So, you know, unfortunately, without direction, without guidance, people just get stuck in olam hazeh. But that's the power of the Yetzer Hara. the story gets a person stuck in all of us. Look, it happened to Esav, and it happens to many people also. Esav got stuck in Olam Hazeh, and he had tremendous potential. Esav had tremendous potential to achieve. He grew up in the household of Yitzchak Avinu. His grandfather was Avram Avinu. His grandmother was Sarah Iman. And so he had tremendous potential to achieve. And Hashem wanted to. He had the possibility to achieve, but he wasted it. Wasted it on all Hazeh. So that's only the first of many instances where those things have happened, unfortunately. And that's what we're talking about here. A person has to realize, look at those efforts a person puts forth towards his material and physical success and desire, and compare that with what you're putting forth for your spiritual desire and success. And if not the same, so try and make a change. That it should bring it up to par. At least bring it up to par. At least bring your spiritual desires and endeavors and dreams and you should equal what you're doing with your physical dreams and endeavors and enthusiasms. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. Yeah. Okay, let's go further.
Hu Ka'esh. Only he is like fire. Kol asher tosif eitzim. Everything is that he's adding wood. He mosifa lehava. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so he says a person who's like this, he's like a fire. That everything, all the more wood you put onto the fire, the more the fire is going to rage. Right. So likewise, the more a person seeks to fulfill his desire for acquisitions, the greater the desire is going to become.
V'chol beno, I'm sorry, libo, ukevanaso, moshkim alav yomam v'layla. And all of his heart and his intention is drawn after is drawn to this day and night. Einenu choshev leohev ella mi she yizrahu alav. And he doesn't think to love,
right? Meaning his whole all of his heart and his intentions and his thoughts are drawn day and night to the fulfillment of his desire for acquisition, right? So that's going to affect him as well. That's going to. He doesn't think to love anybody, except those people who will help him in his desire to achieve this. Right? I once met the person. He was a young fellow. I'm not sure. He must have been about 22, 23 years old. So this fellow had a goal that he wanted to be worth a certain amount of millions, and even then millions weren't that much money these days. But he wanted to be worth a certain amount of millions by the time he was 30 years old. And his whole goal was to reach that personal worth that he should be worth so many millions of dollars by the time he was 30 years old. And so anybody who could help him do that, well, that was a guy who was a friend of his. And if you couldn't help him do that, so he didn't spend too much time befriending you. That's exactly what he's talking about here. That the person who has as his goal physical, material acquisition, then the only people he's really interested in associating with are people who can help him do that.
V'lo rea ne'eman ela ha-mishrahu alav. And he does not have a friend who is faithful to help him.
Right. Meaning the only person who is considered to be by him a faithful friend is someone who can only help him achieve that in a direct way. Amishahu Allah, meaning from the word yasher, yasher straight. Meaning only someone who can help him achieve that directly.
Itzpa le asos atzor ha mas hamischarim v'asi mechir rasam v'tufa inyanei hasha'ar v'cho care al yokar ha his choros the zil osam v'alosam v'yirid tam v'chol katzei haaretz. Let's see. V'yitfu, and he expects to wait. What is Atzor?
Like Otzer HaMiskrim. The Otzer is like the acquisition, like Otzer, like an Otzer, like you have an Otzer Svarim, and Otzer Svarim that's I mean we call it secularly you call it a library, but Otzer is like a treasury or a storage, right? So Yitzapela Sos Otzer HaMischarin, he's looking forward to the times when the Otzer HaMischarim, when the market will be available to him, and it'll be the Otzer, this storage houses will become available for merchandise.
Let's see. Okay. So I don't know. This sentence is there's too many words in the sentence. I don't know.
Okay, so Yitzapela Sos Otzer scoring, but I see Mechirasa. He looks expectantly towards the time when the merchandise will be made available, and the time of its sale.
And this is what this is the characteristic of somebody who's immersed in the physical world.
That's right. That's right. He's because he's interested in trying to make earn money and to acquire things. So he's I don't I don't have to tell you. I mean, I forgot all about it, sort of, but I remember there was a certain I know there was a certain season when all the car companies would come out with their new models for next year. No,
Right.
and people,
Like November.
yeah, something like that, right? So and the same thing with fashions. The fashion, and probably in most industries, in most trades, they all have their seasons, and people they sit around waiting for these times to see what the new models are going to be, what the new prices are going to be, right?
There's people who just sit around waiting for that.
Uh, could be. Well, I'm not sure if they're sitting around doing nothing, but they certainly have their mind and interest on it. And you have to contrast again. The whole point is you have to contrast this type of behavior with the behavior that a person puts into um, his expectations and efforts that he puts into spiritual accomplishment, right?
Right. Um, uh, so regarding this matter, um, what is hashar?
Well, Shar is like the the exchange, like that's the price market, right? So for Inyani Hashar, he expects, he looks expectantly uh, with interest in the price market.
And hukar,
Hukar is to analyze. Oh, Yokur Askoros and he analyzes the value of the merchandises.
vizulo losam, vialosam. If it's inexpensive or expensive,
Right.
the year e dasam. Then if it goes down, the whole katsui haaretz. What's katsui?
In all parts of the world, in the ends of the earth.
Uh, Below ya yach bedu yach yechav uhu malchas bedarchin. Um, um, that he's deterred.
But below Yaakov, he is not deterred. He is not deterred. Milahefes the Drachim Harakokim. He is not deterred from going on long journeys.
Who below core, below sar. I don't know core and sar.
No, core is cold. Hoim is heat, and core is cold. So meaning it doesn't deter him um, going on long journeys, whether he'll have to be exposed to heat or exposed to cold.
So he's impervious to the elements.
Well, I'm not sure if he's impervious, but he's not deterred by the elements.
He's not deterred. Okay, he's not deterred by the elements. Hayam of the ocean.
Well, but Velosar Hayam, well, neither storms on the ocean. He's going on that boat. That he heard that he heard that the bananas are cheap now in Borneo. So he's getting himself on the next boat to Borneo to get the cheap bananas.
Mhm. Below orach ha derech b'midvaros. And he doesn't. What is orach?
Right, like the length of the journey in the deserts. He's not deterred by the length of the journey in desert. So he knows down there in Uganda, chestnuts are cheap in Uganda. So he's going to cross the Sahara Desert to get those cheap chestnuts.
Ach kol zeh, only all of this, liskoso sheyagia, that he hopes to reach al tachlis, his purpose, to ain tachlis lo, and it's not his purpose.
Well, that he's willing to do all these things. He's doing it right, right. That he's all these things he's doing that all these things are in hope of reaching his goal. So there's no limit for him, right? There's no limit. It keeps going on and on and on.
Right. Next page.
Yeah. Okay.
The v'hef shar shetiyeh yigi aso the rok the larik v'lo ya'aleh biado ki im hatar ha ha'aroch v'hativorach v'he'amal. Yamal. I don't know what Rafshar.
No, the F shar is possible.
Oh, possible. The
The F
Fshar.
possible.
That it should be that he will reach futility.
Right. It's possible. Look, he's taking risks. He's going on the ocean, he's traveling the deserts, he's risking cold and heat, right? And he's hoping that there are going to be bananas left in Borneo when he gets there, right?
Right.
Could be that the monkeys will have eaten all the bananas by the time he gets there, but he's willing to chance it, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's risk. It's a risk, but because he's convinced himself of his need for this physical acquisition, so he's willing to chance it. Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's like 10 to 10. Maybe before, because maybe we'll pick up with this paragraph tomorrow.
Okay.
Let's take a little break.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, listen, I'm at home right now and I may transfer to the yeshiva. If I transfer to the yeshiva, so I'm gonna close um, Zoom and I have to open up a new one when I get to the yeshiva. So for some reason you closed out of the Zoom, so you'll just re-enter into the Zoom that I start in the yeshiva if I transfer over there.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, see you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Lou. Very good. Thank you for the reading. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes, Shakaya.